The content in this video is based on factual, real-life events and public records. All opinions expressed are for educational and documentary purposes only. Viewer discretion is advised, as some scenes may depict sensitive content. This video is intended for informative purposes and complies with YouTube's guidelines. On a windswept island where the ferry comes twice a week, the prison kitchen is where order is served on a tray, and where a single missing portion can change everything. They call it Building G, but everyone knows it as the Galley. From the ferry, you can see the low chimney line and the pale steam drifting into the gray sea. Up close, the compound smells of salt, bleach, and the same soup simmering in the same pots for years. Morning in the island prison begins before dawn. The lights in the kitchen flick on while the rest of the yard is still a silhouette, a thin band of movement under sodium lamps. The cooks, 8 men and 1 woman who have earned the post, move with practiced economy. Aprons snapped, hairnets in place, boots whispering on wet concrete. No chatter. Not yet. If you enjoy real, gripping prison documentaries and true stories, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, and share it with your friends and family. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss more shocking and exclusive content. Meals here are not a matter of taste. They're a system, a schedule written on a whiteboard that never changes, a rhythm of supply boats and inventory counts, a ledger the size of a ledger book that names every grain of rice and every clove of garlic by weight. Portions are measured in precise scoops. Nothing is left to guesswork. Every tray that leaves the galley has been counted, weighed, and logged. Order, they say, prevents hunger and prevents disorder. The kitchen itself is a map of compromises. One side is industrial, a bank of cast iron burners, kettles the size of bathtubs, steamers stacked like crates. The other side is improvised, a battered mixer welded back to life, a strip of stainless steel patched with duct tape. When supply ships are on time, the chefs cook from simple recipes that the islanders grew up with, stews thick with root vegetables, bread baked in communal tins, fish caught off the jetty and salted for storage. When the boat is late, they stretch the store with pulses and sea greens foraged from the tide pools, the prisoners learning how to turn scarcity into something edible. Who works the galley matters. Assignment to the kitchen is not random. You have to be physically fit, you have to have kept your head. The warden selects a mix, the ones with trade certificates from before, the ones who show a steady hand, the ones who have no place else to go. For some, it's a chance at qualification, nights studying recipes and food safety from tattered manuals, a pathway to a job after release. For others, it's the only place where they smell anything like a normal life. Yeast, brown butter, the lift of steam from a ladle. Their schedule is brutal. Wake-up call, breakfast prep, cleanup, a short window to eat. Then the midday rush. Trays for workshops, trays for cells, special diets, elderly hands, diabetic trays, mashed portions for those who can't chew. After the last dish goes out, the crew scrub, inventory, and lock the storeroom. Their day is full of small inspections, a sergeant with a clipboard walking the line, a metal detector on the service door, boots stepping on the scale, every movement observed. Rules govern not just food, but silence. In the dining hall, you eat facing forward. No passing, no sharing. A spoon is not just a utensil, it's evidence. The prison argues this reduces fights, reduces theft, reduces alliances. What it builds instead is a private economy of longing. Someone keeps a sliver of butter, another hides crumbs in the hem of an apron. Little economies are born where official ones are thin. There are rituals too. Once a month the cooks get a comfort night, a dessert that's richer than usual, a loaf with sugar crusted on top. The men who work the galley call it payback for the work. Once a year, the island opens the galley to the public. Town officials and donors come by, pay for a set number of meals, and leave with impressed nods. The event raises money and a little pride, and for the prisoners who made the food, it is a brief, sharp proof that their labor has a value outside the compound. But the galley also holds secrets. Food is a currency, and a tray can carry more than calories. A folded scrap tucked beneath the lid of a lunchbox. A note written on the back of an inventory slip. A seasoning packet with a thread tied through it. For all the checks and balances, there are ways to smuggle more than tobacco or contraband. Whispers, favors, messages folded into sandwiches. Those small subversions ripple quickly on an island with limited faces and no place to hide. That afternoon, as the crew ladled stew into cans and the last steamers hissed emptily, a new inmate arrived at Building G. He was quiet when he walked in, tall, with hands that had known other jobs. He took off his jacket and folded it carefully, watching the line as if studying it. The head cook assigned him a station at the salad counter, a place that looked harmless but touched everything that left the kitchen. He did not speak for hours. He watched the way portions were measured, the cadence of the servers, the moment the guard stepped away. He moved slowly, deliberately. When the late inspection came, a routine check by the deputy at 10 p.m., no one found anything amiss. Trays were tallied. Locks were checked. The ledger balanced. And yet, when the ovens went cold and the stainless still shone with the last streak of soap, one single tray that had been plated for a far corner cell was missing. The cook in charge swore she had set it on the counter. The guards swore they had seen every tray leave. The ledger had the number written twice. Cameras had a blind spot with a corridor squeezed into the stairwell. The men washed their aprons, stacked their bowls, and went quiet in prayer and cigarette smoke. Outside, the tide came in with the soft, relentless pull of the sea. Inside, the galley clock ticked on. A missing tray could be a mistake. It could be hunger. It could be theft. Or it could be the beginning of something else. When the morning shift came in, the head cook found a damp scrap of paper tucked beneath the drain board. A single word smudged by steam. It was small, unassuming, and it did not belong in a kitchen inventory. The word read, "Wait." The man in the apron. The morning after the missing tray incident, the galley felt different. Not louder, not busier, just off. Routine was normally a shield in this place. But today, every clang of metal, every shift of boots on the slick floor, carried an extra edge. Someone had broken the rhythm. And in a prison built on predictability, that was the first crack in the wall. The first person to notice the change was Marlowe, the head cook. 20 years in kitchens, 8 of them behind these fences. He could tell when something was wrong from the way the steam rose off the pots or the way people breathed when they chopped vegetables. This morning, nobody breathed right. He walked the line slowly, watching the crew. The same 8 men and 1 woman. And the new guy, the quiet one from the night before. He moved like somebody who had studied kitchens before. Calm wrists, efficient steps, the kind of posture that said, "I know exactly where to stand so I don't get noticed." But today he was noticed. Marlowe asked him his name. "Call me Wren," he said, eyes lowered. There was a story behind that non-answer. Everyone could feel it. Breakfast went out on schedule, though the guards hovered closer than usual. By lunch prep, tension clung to the air thick as steam. The sergeant from last night's inspection stormed in, boots echoing against the tiles, clipboard under his arm. He didn't speak at first. He just looked at the trays, the pots, the storeroom door. Then he said the sentence no kitchen worker wants to hear in a prison. One of you knows where that tray went. The room froze. He wasn't accusing. Not yet. But suspicion spreads fast in a locked environment. A look held too long. A shift in posture. A spoon put down too slowly. Every tiny detail felt like evidence. Wren kept working, head down, slicing cucumbers with slow, even strokes. Too slow. Too calm. Marlowe noticed. After the sergeant left, Marlowe approached him quietly, standing with his back to the cameras. "You were on salad duty last night," Marlowe whispered. Wren didn't stop cutting. "Yes." "You see anything?" Wren wiped his hands on his apron. "I saw everything." It was the kind of answer that didn't clarify anything and made everything worse. Later, while scrubbing trays in the back, one of the older cooks muttered, "This is how it starts. One tray, then a signal, then something bigger." The kitchen was no longer just a workplace. It was a fuse. Right before cleanup, Wren moved differently, as if waiting for a specific moment. He paused by the industrial steamer, reached inside to adjust the racks, and slipped something small between 2 metal bolts. Nobody else saw it. But the camera missed it too. the same blind spot near the corner. When the evening bell rang and the crew clocked out, Marlowe lingered, staring at the steamer door. Something about Wren's movements stayed with him, unsettling, deliberate. He opened the steamer. The heat hit his face. The metal groaned softly. Inside, wedged between the bolts, was another scrap of damp paper. This time the word wasn't a request. It was a warning. Tonight, and somewhere in the prison, the consequences of that word had already begun. The signal. Night falls differently on an island prison. It doesn't arrive gently. It drops, like a curtain pulled tight, swallowing the yards, the walkways, the towers in a single sweep of darkness. By lights out, the compound looks less like a prison and more like a stranded ship, humming with generators and tension. And this night, the night spelled out in Wren's message, felt heavier than the others. Inside the kitchen block, the air was still warm from the day's work. The metal surfaces gleamed with the last of the disinfectant. Every tray was stacked. Every pot was hung. Everything looked normal. And that was the part that felt wrong. Marlowe stayed behind again. He told the guards he needed to finish inventory, but the truth was simpler. He wanted to see if anything happened. He wanted to know what tonight was preparing him for. At 21:14, the lights flickered. Just once. A brief, stuttering blink across the galley ceiling. To anyone else, it meant nothing. A minor power adjustment at the generator shed. But Marlowe knew better. He'd seen that exact flicker twice in his 8 years cooking here, and both times it signaled a shift change distraction used by inmates outside the kitchen. Whatever Wren was part of, it wasn't small. Marlowe stepped to the metal prep table, running his hand across its cold surface, listening. The prison hum is constant, vents, pipes, distant boots. But now there was something else threaded beneath it, a faint vibration, a rhythm, repeating every few seconds. Clack, clack, clack. It was coming from the dried goods storeroom. He approached slowly, aware that the cameras didn't cover this corner well. The guards always intended to fix the angle, but never did. Prison priorities changed month to month. Blind spots remained. Marlowe pushed the door open. Inside, moonlight from a high, grated window cut thin, silver stripes across the shelves. Rows of cans, sacks of flour, crates of onions stacked to the ceiling. And in the middle of the room, standing silently, was Wren. He wasn't surprised to see Marlowe. "I knew you'd come," Wren said, his voice low, controlled. "You pay attention. What's happening tonight?" Marlowe whispered. Wren turned slightly, revealing what he had in his hands. A metal food cart, small enough to push and light enough to maneuver quietly. But that wasn't the strange part. Fastened underneath the cart's frame, wrapped in a piece of cloth, was a tightly rolled object, cylindrical, sealed in plastic, reinforced with tape. Marlowe's stomach dropped. "That's contraband." "No," Wren said calmly. "It's information." He tapped the cylinder. "Blueprints, schedules, weak points, things the administration should have fixed years ago." Marlowe felt the air thicken. "Where did you get that?" "The same place the missing tray went," Wren replied. "Someone on the outside needed a way to send a message in. I was chosen to receive it." Marlowe took a step back. "This is an escape plan." Wren didn't answer directly. Instead, he rolled the cart toward the door. "Tonight is the first move, not the last." Before Marlowe could respond, the hallway lights snapped on. Boots thudded heavily. Voices approached. Someone was yelling orders. The alarm hadn't gone off, which meant the guards weren't hunting inmates. They were hunting a problem they didn't understand yet. Wren turned to Marlowe, eyes sharp. "You didn't find me, and you didn't see this." "Why me?" Marlowe whispered. "Because you actually care what happens here," Wren said. "Most people just care about getting through the day." The footsteps grew louder. Wren slipped past him, pushing the cart down the far corridor toward the service elevator that only kitchen workers used. Marlowe stood frozen in the storeroom doorway as a squad of guards rounded the corner, flashlights scanning, questions flying. One wrong movement, and he would be the one dragged away. He wiped his hands on his apron, steadied his breathing, and stepped forward. "What's going on?" he asked, voice steady. A guard stopped inches from him. Power flicker triggered an internal check. "We're securing all restricted areas. You see anyone back here?" Marlowe shook his head slowly. No one but me. He felt the weight of the lie. Heavy. Final. The guards swept past him. Down the hall. Wren and the cart were already gone. And for the first time in years, Marlowe realized he was no longer just a cook in a prison kitchen. He was now standing in the middle of a plan already in motion. Inside Blackrock Penitentiary, pressure doesn't rise suddenly. It builds slowly, silently, one day at a time. For Marcus Ironhand Reed, that pressure had reached a place no inmate ever wants to be. The point where survival becomes strategy. After weeks of hunger strikes, interrogations, and isolation, the officers believed they had Marcus cornered. But something changed. During a routine block transfer, Marcus noticed a pattern, a flaw in the system most inmates would never catch. Every night at 2:47 a.m., a single guard completed a sweep across the east wing alone, passing through a blind spot in the cameras for exactly 9 seconds. 9 seconds wasn't much, but for a man who'd spent half his life in maximum security, it was enough. Marcus began preparing. He timed guard footsteps. He memorized key rotations. He even counted how long it took an officer to respond to a panic alarm. 13 seconds on average. But his escape wasn't just about freedom. It was about proving that the system designed to break him had created something stronger instead. One quiet night, as fluorescent lights buzzed over the cracked concrete floor, Marcus realized the unthinkable. The prison had become predictable. And in a place like Blackrock, predictability is the real weakness. He wasn't ready to run. Not yet. But Chapter 4 marks the moment every great prison story turns. The moment the inmate stops reacting and starts planning. Because Marcus had discovered something hidden behind all the brutality, pressure, and control. A door wasn't the only way out. Sometimes the escape begins in the mind. For Marcus Ironhand Reed, every second inside Blackrock Penitentiary had been a test of his patience, his resolve, and his will to survive. But after months of pressure, surveillance, and strategy, the moment had finally arrived. It started with the same sound he'd heard for years. The metallic click of the East Wing gate at 2:47 a.m. But tonight wasn't routine. Tonight, Marcus wasn't watching. He was acting. As the guard stepped into the blind spot, Marcus moved with precision only decades of confinement could sharpen. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't rushing. He was executing a plan shaped by every hour the system tried to break him. The blind spot lasted 9 seconds. It was all he needed. By the time the cameras picked the guard back up, Marcus was already past the first barrier. But this wasn't an escape fueled by desperation. It was calculated, controlled, and cold. Each step down that shadowed corridor was a reminder of how Blackrock had forged him, not shattered him. At 2:48 a.m., the power flickered. A surge, a blackout, not an accident. For the first time in years, the prison fell silent. Marcus disappeared into that silence, leaving behind a system that believed it understood him, right until the moment it didn't. Some say he made it beyond the outer fence. Some say he vanished into the industrial tunnels beneath the facility. Others believe he never left at all, that his escape was symbolic, not physical. But one thing is certain. Blackrock Penitentiary didn't break Marcus Reed. It built the man who walked out of it. This was the story of a man pushed to the edge of human endurance, and the prison that underestimated him. If you want more deep, dark, real prison stories like this, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter inside the world's toughest prisons. Because in places like Blackrock, there's always another story waiting in the dark.